Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hello, this is Mark Mitchell. Thanks for joining me today. Today I want to talk about changes in the building material industry that are going to affect building material manufacturers as much as a recession, but in very different ways. So when we face a recession, a couple of things happen. One is companies that are not well financed, or perhaps they have overextended themselves, taken on too much risk. Those companies, many of them will go out of business. Then there will be companies that go out of business simply because their sales decline too far down and they can't cut their costs enough to continue with a viable business. And then there will be companies that become acquired by another company that perhaps was a competitor, perhaps an investment firm. But there are many companies at risk during this period that we're facing right now that are, to me, just as daunting as a recession. The first change that we're seeing is we're seeing this shift to the reduction of waste and inefficiency in all parts of construction, whether that is new construction, repair, remodel, whether that's residential or commercial. We're seeing a real focus on reduction of waste and inefficiency. And the main causes of waste and inefficiency are just how buildings have always been built for years. It is just fraught with inefficiency. The way that you design the building, the way that you select and source the materials, the way you order materials, the way you estimate labor and actually complete the installation, all of those things add up to a lot of inefficiencies. I was reading an article recently in the New York Times in which they quoted an engineer or somebody that understands this better than I do, in which he talked about the way we build buildings today would be as if we went to General Motors and asked them to build a car, and every single car they build to order, and they're all different. And how inefficient that would be and how much more the cars would cost. So our industry is really getting serious about this. And it's being driven by builders. It's being driven by owners. General contractors are people who have a great interest in this. It's being driven for two reasons. One is a way to overcome the labor shortages. And the second is just to have a competitive advantage to be the company that can deliver you the same quality building, perhaps some would argue higher quality building, at a lower cost because they've reduced all the waste and inefficiency. Most companies today simply see the advent of this as another customer to buy a quantity of products. They aren't stepping back and realizing how big of a change this is and what it's going to mean as they go forward. When they really look at it, they'll see that they really need to rethink how their products are designed and delivered and specified and installed, all of those things. Because now if something is built in a factory, you don't have to depend upon the installer on a job site. So it may mean that your product can be installed very differently and very much more efficiently and with a higher quality because of the consistent quality control in a factory. The companies I see today, the majority of them, if they see this change, which many of them still don't, but if they see it simply as just another customer to approach. How many truckloads of my product do you want? And that's the incorrect way to do it. So a lot of small and medium-sized companies are going to really be left behind by this if they don't wake up and get on board. A number of larger companies aren't going to go out of business, but they may find themselves set way back, all of a sudden seeing sales declines that they don't understand why, and then have to play catch up, which is not a good place to be. But in any case, any of these companies could be faced with just as daunting a challenge as if we went into another recession. That is something that, I really see companies not paying attention to. The second real challenge that can be as challenging as a recession is most companies are not recognizing how deep and quickly and widespread the shift to online sales and providing information is happening. They're still stuck in a mindset of, I need to make a personal sales call if I'm going to sell anything, or I need to meet somebody at a trade show. But there's still this mindset of, I need to make personal interactions. In today's world, personal interactions are still valuable, but they're amazingly expensive and inefficient. The companies that are being more successful today are companies that are recognizing that the customer today is starting out online. They aren't calling you. They aren't waiting for you to make a sales call. They may even refuse to see you, which is part of why it's harder and harder to get meetings. It's not necessarily they don't want to see you. It's just at this time, they don't have a need to talk to you about your product. But at some point, they probably will. They're going to go online and look for information themselves. They're going to themselves start to narrow down the companies they want to talk to, the products they want to consider. At that point, they're going to reach out to you and want to talk to you. But they're already way down the purchase path. And most companies today are not recognizing this. So they will have a website that still functions more like a static catalog, a website that is a repository for every single piece of information anybody can think of to put in there. There's a mindset that the building material company decides whether or not it's a friendly to use website. They don't go interview customers and find out what would make a great website. They don't understand social media. They don't understand the importance of content marketing. And they certainly, most of them do a very poor job of SEO or search engine optimization. So the result of this is the salespeople are out there working hard. Every day it's getting just a little harder because of how the customers have shifted online. The company that the salespeople work for has not really recognized this shift, so it's not supporting it. They're still doing old school things like just sending every lead to the salespeople, in which the salespeople have learned that in those cases, most leads are worthless. So companies wonder why the leads do not get followed up on. The salespeople simply can't waste their time to call on people who might be a customer. So this shift online is first about making sure that you are the easiest to find, that you are answering the questions the customer has, which is not 5 ways to use your product or 5 reasons that it's better, that you are making it easy for them to contact you in a less committed way than contact us. I want a quote. Give them some easy ways, non-committal, like download our report on this, or don't make these 5 mistakes when specifying flooring. The companies that are doing that are going to move through this. They also want the website to be very, we use this term called user experience. And if you talk to your customers and ask them what are the 3 best websites that they use from any caliber or any category of products, they will tell you. And then you can ask them why. Then you can find out how your website can be more like that. But I'm getting off into the solution here. The issue is that just like we're seeing a focus on the reduction of waste and inefficiency in the whole construction process, we're also seeing a dramatic shift online. And most manufacturers are not recognizing this shift. It makes them nervous. They can't control it. It's not like buying an ad in a magazine or seeing a booth or reading call reports. And but that's the second big challenge. And companies who do not recognize these 2 challenges, these 2 basic shifts in how the building material industry is working, are at risk of getting left behind or facing just as much of loss of sales as if there was a recession. So this is something that I think, that I know that sharp companies are recognizing these 2 changes. They recognize that change is not going to be easy. You can't just call a salesman in and buy this stuff. This requires some deep thinking at the senior-most levels of the company to recognize the profound shift they need to make in things, to not assume they know everything, go out and do some research, and better meet the needs of their own salespeople as well as their customers. The companies that recognize these 2 shifts, they're going to, I don't know how to put it, they're going to leapfrog over their competition. And it's going to happen sooner than you know. You don't want to wake up one day that you've lost a big customer, you're losing more big sales because of these 2 factors that have nothing to do with price. They have to do with better meeting the needs of today's customer. So I encourage you to, if you're the big guy, to look at making these changes. If you're not the big guy, I encourage you to really push your company to recognize the threat that these 2 changes recognize, and that the threat is every bit as big as they can experience in a severe recession. So I hope you've enjoyed this rather somber podcast, and I hope you'll tune in to the next one. This is Mark Mitchell. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.